say, hey, that looked pretty good. We were really happy with that. Let's do it again. It's going to be up to Kingzone to do something different, you would have to argue, because Afreeca, it's kind of obvious what they want to pick, but so far, the bans have been exactly the same.
Again, a reminder, it is dynamic side selection, so games 1, 3, and 5, Kingzone as the higher seed choose the side they're on. 2 and 4, Afreeca Freecs choose. Game number 2, they choose red after Kingzone chose blue like everyone would have expected. You mentioned, yep, the Swain ban will come in again, so this really does suggest Kingzone have some pretty targeted prep. They want the game to be under certain parameters, and Yasuo and Swain being open are not part of those parameters. The Tahm Kench ban was the final ban on red side by Afreeca. It's the adjustment here. We will see an Olaf ban in place of Shen for Kingzone.
If you want to first pick Taliyah, this is what you have to do. And I think with the Olaf ban, we might just see it here once again. Peanut's got that smile on his face. He didn't look fantastic in game 1, but again, Olaf was all over him.
And Kingzone are the sort of team that should be so happy to blind pick Taliyah first pick. They have BDD, an incredibly good mid-lane Taliyah player, but if they're not willing to flex it, it does opt into Afreeca having counter picks. The Olaf will not be the counter pick this time, and has been talked about, the big pick into it. Will Afreeca Freecs just take Shen Varus in the first round here to have a global to answer the Weaver's Wall, and the Varus pick, which is a flex pick on the red side for them. We know the Evelynn has been spammed by Spirit. I don't think it's a first round pick, but it could certainly come out, Valdez.
You know, I see that, and it's not even one of those things where I can get trolled. It's just too off the charts with Varus available and how well it worked in game 1. Why not just take it again?
It's too early for it, but that doesn't mean we won't see it. The mind games being put forward by Afreeca Freecs, they have the overall final pick in this draft. They do take the Varus again. See if Kingzone are going to just blind pick their solo lanes again. That's what they did in game number 1. And again, our analysis, not knowing, of course, the comms, seemed to be a lot of, we got the bonanza, we got the picks we wanted. How could we lose with Ryze, Taliyah, and Jace? We saw very quickly how they could lose. This is a flex pick from Kingzone. Likely to be Khan jumping onto the top lane. Camille, big pick for him into Keen's champion pool. Both these guys love to play the fighters that are strong in this meta, and Camille, with jungle pressure, can overtake them. What would the third pick be in the first round?
Well, they were hovering that Ryze, and they picked it the last time around, but with the supports and the top tier supports being left over, Shen this time for Tucson, but Alistar's available. Gorilla gonna skip the Rakan. He was another guy who didn't look all too impressive in that game. Go with that all-in composition and the setup for the Camille and the Taliyah.
But with nothing confirmed. That's what I want you guys to remember. It could be Taliyah mid lane for BDD. It could be the Camille going to top or into the jungle. Speaking of jungle, I think it's going to be another AP Gragas game for Afreeca Freecs. And look at this, the Misfortune ban. It's a pick we see in the LPL. Of course, most famously played by Gorilla in the semifinals of Worlds in 2016 as a support. But this is a marksman pick. You see situationally, full lethality. Misfortune does really well against Varus because Varus is all about outranging. You walk too far up, fishing for a Q, and you get your own Q in the face. That does pretty incredible damage from Q-Max lethality Misfortune. The Jax ban comes out. You and I were discussing the Jax. It felt for sure there would be a Jax pick or a Jax ban because Khan and Keen next to Smeb are our big Jax players in Korea.
Especially into the Camille. It's definitely one of those picks that you would consider taking it in the top lane. It makes sense as the first ban. What do you do as your second ban here? Still no mid laner. They do have the flex Varus there on the side of Afreeca. You could consider banning out a mid laner or just another counter to the top side. They're going to go ahead and take away the Talon from game 1.
Does make you think Taliyah, doesn't it, when it comes to the second ban here, especially for the mid lane. So we'll see what Afreeca Freecs want to do. They so far have just their duo lane and jungle. They're going to go super, super safe. That's what you want to do, so you can fifth pick something a bit more spicy. The Cho'Gath, that was a favorite of Khan in the LCK Spring Grand Final. He's played a lot of it as well. Keen going to be jumping on the Cho'Gath and saying, well, if it's Camille or if it's something else, I'll be able to stay in and do just fine.
You were talking about AP Gragas, but he's got a body of his own. You have Cho'Gath and Shen to help out. Could see that Varus flexed. I guess against the Camille, this wouldn't be the game that you see something like a spicy 80 carry coming on in. We would expect more of a counter pick for the mid lane instead of like a Twitch or a Jinx in this one, but we'll have to wait and see. The door is still open for that.
Turning to the Kai'Sa in this game, and this would mean Taliyah jungle. After all, if we do see the Ryze still available in the second round, considered one of the strongest possible picks in Korea, abusing Time Warp Tonic, and also the amount of regen you can pick up through items like the Corrupting Potion. Will we see the Ryze, or will we see an adjustment here? Kingzone once again will be going through a very squishy lineup. They have one more of a face checker, as Alistair with ult can always do a bit of scouting. But it is, once again, a return to 1-3-1 for Kingzone. Maybe the coach says, don't die 2v2, and things should go better. But Afreeca Freecs do end up with overall last pick to pull out a wild card.
What's it going to be? Would expect this to be the mid lane. Vel'Koz was banned in game number 1. Seems like the obvious pick on the Ryze. We've seen this many times before. Has kind of taken over as that semi-counter pick on the mid lane over the Cassiopeia that we used to see of old. But now it's all about the Vel'Koz, and it's all about Kuro's Vel'Koz specifically.
And also, it's all about getting a pick that should do very well against BDD. BDD is the guy you want on the shortest leash possible on the side of Kingzone. Used to be Khan jumping on the Jace. Now he's in the second loss for Jace in 2018 in game number 1. BDD has been an unbelievable form in summer. The Vel'Koz, the Korean answer to Ryze, very strong in lane. After about level 5 is the chance Taliyah can do some things earlier, maybe skirmish around some Rift Scuttles, maybe go for the delayed invade that Tucson was there to scout in game number 1. But with enough time, with 4 to 5 points in the W, Vel'Koz can stand and deliver against the Ryze. Kingzone don't go for a traditional tank. They're keeping it squishy. They need to adjust their play, though. They cannot take the liberties that really lost them game number 1.
It's cool to see that Afreeca picked the red side. It worked so well for game number 1. Might as well just go for that once again in game number 2. They switch up the jungle as the Olaf was banned. The Vel'Koz is open and Shen was open, but outside of that, everything looks very similar for Afreeca, whereas Kingzone essentially just plug and play as well with the Camille instead of the Jace, and the Alistair instead of the Rakan. Should be another game that Kingzone would want to win and try not to make as many mistakes as they did in game number 1.
Kingzone all about the 1-3-1. Afreeca Freecs, another Baron comp, the Cho'Gath instead of the Ornn this time. I think we're ready to load in, and Kingzone DragonX desperate to get on the board. They don't want to have to try and reverse sweep the Afreeca Freecs.
That's not a fun place to be in, but we'll see if they can tie it up here going into game number 2. Kingzone DragonX up against the Afreeca Freecs. Well, we already got some shenanigans in the river here. Spirit is going to have to take Body Slam first to get over the wall. They just wanted to get some vision down. In the end, isn't going to amount to much, but not going to be so bad. Gragas can start with that Body Slam and not be too effective.
See how long Tucson spends topside. Remember, he stayed topside for the delayed invade. That was Taliyah Jace. On the side of Kingzone in game number 1, we are blue side for Kingzone, 2 games in a row with dynamic side selection. Afreeca chose red for game number 2, so Kingzone remain on the blue side. Looking for big adjustments from these two, Prey and Gorilla, the absolute legends of the LCK and definitely of the bot lane. Bot lane royalty, but royalty doesn't mean much when you're struggling as much as they did in game number 1. So you need to show increased performance in game number 2. And actually find a competitive laning phase. They had it for the first 50-60 CS, but level 6 hit for Kramer, and the rest was history.
It's also an interesting spot where the supports weren't in the bottom lane, right? If the Rakan was there, it would have been a lot harder to pull off, but we already see an interesting change up here. Prey is going to take Cleanse this time around. No teleport. He's not going to take any risks here. I'm sure the coach took him in the back room and said, hey, no more solo queue, no more getting caught. You're going to play safe this time around. You're good in the late game on this Kai'Sa pick specifically. That's where we want you to show off.
Wouldn't it be amazing if he played Kai'Sa every game of this series as well, after playing Kai'Sa and being heavily criticized Afreeca Freecs for leaving open Kai'Sa every game of the spring finals? Do want to draw your attention to another choice. Spirit is once again the fastest fat man in the West. He has gone for Predator Gragas one more time. Turret dives are really scary from the Predator Gragas. And if he follows the same build path, that was, of course, the Runic Echo into the Proto Belt for some pretty sweet body slam cancels with that Proto Belt.
He had his dancing shoes on. Take a look at Tucson all the way in the enemy jungle here, and he might just be safe anyway. Didn't even look like he put down a ward, but kind of faked it in a sense. Also spotted the Taliyah, so nice little pathing from him. Khan is already losing in CS in the top side. Cho'Gath is a safe pick up there in terms of a tank, but also can win some matchups early on.
No vision put down by Tucson, but he would have known the exact path here, or close to the exact path from Peanut, knowing which camps were attended to and which ones were not. More information for Spirit. He's not a Predator jungler, so you expect him to back before he looks for his first gank. That's the only predictable part there of Predator. Obviously the warning mark when you actually get the boots, but before the boots come through, you're not really expecting there to be any jungle ganks, as you are down a keystone in that particular case.
Can't hit every CS under the turret. A little bit easier than some other champions to do that, but it's nice to see that he's not going to get too far behind up in the top side. We'll see if Peanut can have some more presence around the mid lane. We do see a cleanse this time from Kuro. Had the Ignite talent in game number 1, but Taliyah and Ryze, pretty hard to deal with.
If you're a jungler, queuing into these champions, if you're Peanut or Spirit, you are so happy on both sides because there's basically guaranteed hard CC in every lane from both teams. So it's a jungler's paradise for actually getting ahead in this particular game. So Peanut is set up to have some very good lanes to look to attend to. You were correct in game number 1, never was able to do that. One of the problems there from the side of Kingzone. Talking about things more generally, Kingzone once again on the 1-3-1 duty, just like in game number 1. Afreeca Freecs going to be looking for a Baron setup. They have very strong Baron turn, Rupture, much more predictable when someone's coming to you. The Vel'Koz, if you're coming to you, going to be able to pop that ultimate, and they have the Baron secure of the Gragas Cask Away and the Cho'Gath Feast. So very good Baron team on the side of Afreeca Freecs. But actually being able to pull off the plays, all the picks they did in game number 1 was a product of winning the early game and winning the Vision War, and thus becoming more reliable. If they are actually dragged into the open, Afreeca Freecs really only have a Gragas ult when it comes to a true engage tool. Otherwise, the Ornn ult being removed is a pretty big downgrade for them.
Yep, just got to get that fight started. Can always have some good follow-up. The Shen, the Chains of Corruption, of course, Kuro on the Vel'Koz. Everybody's got a tool to get on in there. And I want to see which one of these junglers is going to take a more aggressive stance in this game, because you talked about all the different lanes. They have a bunch of CC and ability to make things happen, but so far it's been only farming from both sides. Just Spirit gets the extra Scuttle Crab, and that's the only difference so far.
Watching Peanut, he's up top side. Don't think there's a lot of kill pressure there onto the Cho'Gath, but bot side.
Okay, they're going to try to get here onto Gorilla. Nice slam there on the ground. The flash is going to be flashed, but the ray is already there from Kuro. Is going to pick up the first blood, and the dive in the top side goes incredibly wrong as Camille goes down. Khan, unfortunately, another big mistake here from Kingzone.
Is this live or replay?
Oh boy.
Well, it's game 2, and yet the same thing has happened again. We missed the outplay on top side.
Oh.
Usually it's Khan with the outplays. This time it's the Cho'Gath. Going to hell in a handbag pretty quickly here, Valdez.
That's just real. We have to take a look at the replay because we can't really say much about that top side, but the bottom side gank perfectly pulled off as well. Kuro hits level 6, and they get even just enough damage off to make him go down. They didn't even land the CC onto the Alistar.
Let's watch how this happened top side. I imagine a Rupture had to be the MVP here. Probably not that one. I mentioned already, he's full health. It's Cho'Gath. This is a pretty hard gank to make happen. Hookshot comes in, flashes away from the first play, and then just misjudges turret aggro. It's just actually surprisingly poor. That's not really an outplay. That's just Keen being a reliable top laner. I imagine Smeb, Khan himself would have made the same plays on the defensive side. It's the offensive side that looks really crisp from Afreeca. A bit all at sea from the side of Kingzone.
Everybody who's played enough games against Taliyah knows that you flash the setup seismic shove. That was the play, the Camille stun into the seismic shove, but it wasn't on time. And the second he flashes, you need to back away. You need to get out of there, but Khan stayed 1 second too late, and that is what bit him in the butt. As now Spirit, he secures the red buff away from the invade from Peanut, and now he's looking at level 6 to maybe make a play in the mid lane.
And remember the difference between Game 1 and Game 2? It's once again BDD on Rise. He's once again doing well in CS. The talent into Rise was not about the mid lane, it was about the roam and killing Peanut. The Vel'Koz is picked into Rise, seen as a counter pick once you hit about level 5 to level 7. This time, no big CS lead for the mid laner here. Going to be very even for Kuro at worst, and eventually we'll be able to shove and roam, so they're not even going to have BDD in a relative position of power against Kuro in game number 2 as compared to game number 1.
You were talking about pushing and invading. Tucson is joining on up too with his own control wards, some assessment pings at the red buff, but they're not going to come into it just yet. They want to get someone down here. Corella does not have his flash.
They have ultra priority this game. Varus into Kai'Sa, priority matchup. The Vel'Koz post level 5, priority matchup. And yeah, Predator Gragas may not be Olaf, but it's pretty similar. And you can see where Kingzone are at in terms of their mind games. When we see Predator junglers, it's usually, we're thinking of specifically the Skarner. That's the most common one. Post 6, we know about Skarner punishing with Predators. Speaking of punishing.
This time he's got Cleanse. Thanks for that parade. Not taking teleport in this game.
If Kingzone make the wrong attempt to use the Taliyah, swoop in with the Weaver's Wall, Predator Gragas will come up and clean it up. If you're in a long lane, Predator is so powerful, but we did not see it much during the season. It's usually Skarner specific.
Oh, man.
And Peanut's going to be spotted once again. I'm loving these lane wards from Afreeca.
Game number 1, Khan was able to put down one of his own to spot Spirit. This time it's Keen who spots it. Wasn't much of a play to make up at the top side anyway, as it was being pushed in, but either way, they got to be careful now to dive this Cho'Gath, who has more survivability. Picked up a Doran's ring. Kind of an interesting addition to the Ninja Tabi on top of the Doran shield, which is a normal start.
At the end of the day, he probably had gold for a Ruby Crystal and just wanted to go for a Doran's ring to give him a bit of incidental regen.
He showed for like a split second. I don't know if they saw him, and now Khan is going to get knocked up. There's the Predator. See you later, Khan, as the feast comes in. They make 1 kill into a second, and now all of a sudden, Khan is 0-2.
I missed the vision toggle as well, Valdez, but certainly the gank was so easy. Spirit once again going AP on the Gragas like we alluded to. He's got his Runic Echo. He's going to work towards a Proto Belt. He's going to have to sit cancels on the body slam. And Kingzone are already feeling that sinking feeling they were feeling in game number 1.
This feels like MSI, Rift Rivals all over again. You can't really do this. Take a look.
Nope. Oh, yes, he was spotted.
He does. Split second, and Khan doesn't see it.
No blue pings. There was a red pings onto the top laner, and you're right, Khan wasn't seeing it there. Look, it wasn't the most obvious thing ever, but it was there. At the end of the day, the map hack was actually online. Now Peanut trying to shadow a Gragas, and find this Gragas finding success everywhere he goes.
Well, they're really trying to force this one. It looks like Tucson isn't in the best spot here, but an easy taunt away, and Peanut is still waiting for the Olaf to show up. Or not the Olaf, the Gragas. As well, BDD also was being pushed away from the mid lane. That's where the Gragas was, shadowing the mid side.
Afreeca Freecs defending the bottom side. They have priority, and there's nowhere that Kingzone can actually find an advantage if they just send 4 members there, because Kramer and Tucson say, well, this is, okay, I'm not invited to this party. I will leave for now. The Ocean Drake, not the biggest prize ever, but the Scuttle Crab does go the way of Kingzone. Clear jungle. 2 to 3 and Scuttle Crabs. This will be the last time in Playoffs we'll have the Scuttle Crab counter as we move over to OGN for the semi-final. But at the top you can see that is the second Scuttle there for Kingzone.
It's really interesting to see the... Okay, that's really interesting. Interesting there from Spirit, trying to stopwatch in the face of Peanut.
For sure it's a mistake, but what if it wasn't? What if it was, I don't even need this?
Yeah. I'm going to show you. Wait, take a look. I'm going golden.
We're going to win. I don't even need a Scuttle. Yeah. I don't even need a stasis. No stopwatch required.
You know, Spirit is that kind of guy. Speaking of which, the flash coming in, Tucson in a little bit of trouble, but now the talk comes in. The teammates there first from the Togog. There's the cast in a fray and disappear he will. Gorilla gonna get low and Khan can't do much. They don't have the damage on the backside. Gorilla's gonna go down too. And now Kuro on the first row makes it down here. And they're looking for more. The nice knock him on the key, but there's the laser on the Khan. Can they kill him? Yes, they will. And King survives to the backside. Nobody's died from Afreeca. It's 6-0, and they're ahead by 3,500 gold.
It's a 3-0. They keep playing around this bottom lane. Afreeca have the priority. Kingzone roll in one by one. The dominoes fall. And here we go.
They're looking for more. Should be as easy as pie. And now that's 4 kills to the side of Afreeca. The castle of Kingzone is falling apart as Afreeca, they're looking for revenge.
Afreeca Freecs are looking to actually run the gauntlet like SK Telecom was able to do last year. Only one team has ever run the gauntlet. One of the fun stats for Kingzone in the past, if you think about Prey and Gorilla, you think of so many finals. 4 have been won by Prey, 3 have been won by Gorilla. But in the Rox Tigers era, they've never made the finals from the gauntlet. They've always been seeded into the grand final, Valdez. This is a time where they actually have to run the gauntlet, where they have to win multiple best of 5s. On their first best of 5, they're not finding the right execution. The punishment is just too easy for Afreeca. They roll in and stand and deliver. Firing squad from Afreeca Freecs.
Peanut trying so hard to be relevant in these fights, but he can't. The first one gets flashed. The second one is against Cho'Gath in terms of the burst potential that Taliyah does pack in her kit. And unfortunately now the game is running away from them already. Not 14 minutes just yet, but almost 5,000 gold to Afreeca.
There have been 7 gauntlets in the past. The only time where Prey and Gorilla were involved and not seeded into the final was LCK Summer 2015. First split I had over here in the LCK. They lost 3-2 in the last ever blind pick semifinal. That was the last ever blind pick game in Korea. They've never had to play in the best of 5 stage before the final since then. And Kingstone DragonX are not turning on like they did in the last 5 series where they were in rare form. They look all at sea and they look second best to Afreeca in basically every metric.
Well, we saw what Afreeca did to Gen G, and we said, hey, Gen G, they're not good in playoffs. Well, now we're watching what Afreeca's doing to Kingzone. Now it's 6,000 gold before 15 minutes. The biggest gold difference team in LCK Summer was Kingzone, and that was about 850 gold in terms of the difference. Afreeca is blowing this one open. It's not looking close. Now, again, the reverse sweep is possible, but Afreeca, they look on fire ever since the wild card.
You'd be a bold man to predict Afreeca Freecs winning today. You'd be a bold man right now to predict the reverse sweep. Gorilla, all alone.
He does get the knock-up here onto Kuro, and a huge knock-up there from the Taliyah. Peanut finally making something happen. BDD does get his Realm Warp into position. Afreeca getting a little bit too aggressive there. Gonna give away 2 kills and maybe even the Rift Herald.
Kuro had both summoners, but was still caught anyway. Nice play from Kingzone to swoop in and actually find some advantages after really being on the back foot this game. First 2 kills of the game for them was 0-7 in terms of kill score beforehand. Focusing on Gorilla, he's able to turn it around. They will get a Rift Herald, a small advantage, but sort of tonic they need after a pretty woeful early game.
Still a bit behind here. Spirit just gonna take this Ocean Drake because that's all he's got right now. We take a look at the vision. Tucson spots him, they stick around.
They also spotted on this one. Maybe Spirit and Kuro weren't expecting that their position was also revealed.
Yeah.
Kuro walks in, he flashes early. It's a bit sloppy from him. The dodge feels perfectly placed by the Shen, but it's not going to work against the Q from Prey. They're able to get the assassination there. They back away. In case you guys are wondering, with the Stormrazor nerf, technically there's only 90 AD from items on the Kai'Sa, but at level 9, with these items, just the pickaxe and the Stormrazor, you do have enough to evolve your Q. You do evolve it at level 9. You don't at level 8. You need to ping level 9, have these 2 items, but you did have the Q evolve for that part.
Definitely helped out. But in terms of which AD carry is ahead in this game, the 2-0 and 2 Varus with the Blade of the Rune King and a dagger is going to be the guy for that one. We'll see if Kramer can carry this one. Remember, guys, that he did get the MVP for game number 1. And that game started off slower than this one. They were able to get a very large lead in game number 1, but it wasn't as fiery in the beginning as this one.
This one seemed more likely to blow out, but Kingzone finds a proactive play. They use their tools well, and now Afreeca Freecs going to have to be more respectful as a result. Still a huge Varus once again. That was a fun interaction there.
What if he went all the way to the fountain?
There has been times where that mechanic existed, but thankfully not in a pro game for a long while. The last pro game I should say, that had that was, I remember the Frog and Snowballs in the 1v1 tournament.
Yeah.
Those are pretty amusing, but in the actual 5v5 Summoner's Rift, not so much.
Yeah. Still waiting on that one. Flying cows, they can happen.
Still, Prey finding minion waves. Kramer's lead isn't actually being funneled into a 2v2. And they got the ripped out in this game because of their nice kills earlier, so trying to find a turret to get on the board for Kingzone.
We got 4 members top here. Khan about to get his teleport available. Gonna hit the eye before it hits the turret, but it still does take it out. Now it isn't the first turret, of course, as Afreeca already had 2 turrets, but it's a nice chunk of gold to actually get them back on the board.
Right now, Keen is 2 levels above Khan, who has no items, really, when you think about it. So I think Keen does have solo kill potential here. Has Feast on cooldown for the moment, but Keen with the Righteous Glory, that's definitely the best laning item for Cho'Gath, because in more kill pressure, you can just Righteous Glory into Vorpal Spikes and try to open up a chain. Khan can really just hang back. It's supposed to be a matchup that scales better, but he might always be 1.5 items behind the Cho'Gath, and it might never matter.
Afreeca trying to set up their own plan of attack in the top side. It looks like they don't even need a Rift Herald to do this one. Everybody on the side of Kingzone back. Afreeca rotate up to the top side. They take out another turret to answer back. Try to keep with this gold lead. Cho'Gath going to rotate into the mid lane, and actually they're still pushing. They're not done with this, as there's no other objectives. They want to control this blue side jungle.
And that is the area around the main objective for Afreeca Freecs this game. They have an amazing Baron comp, as we talked about a few times. Baron's Cure, Baron Turn, their short range engage. If it's in an ARAM, terrible. In a Baron fight where they have wards on one side and a flank, they can potentially do some big work. So they want to control the blue side area of Kingzone at any cost. The cost will be this bot lane out of turret.
And at the end of the day, the Camille is 0-3 and levels behind the Cho'Gath, so you're not really concerned about her pushing into an inhibitor and winning in the split push. You can also see the difference in the jungle play so far down at the bottom. Now, this wasn't all just one-on-one, of course, but Spirit has had a more influential game here in game number 2 once again.
Looking for some control wards to be purchased from the side of Kingzone. Afreeca have been having so many on the map. Basically, they've had 4 or more active post 15 minutes in game 1, and going to see that in game number 2 as well. And that's always been the name of their game. Was shouted out by SpoTV and the key points that they are very much known for their control ward purchases. Kingzone need to stay competitive. Otherwise, they won't be able to set up a nice play like they did with Peanut on the Taliyah last time out.
Trying to make that Taliyah work. See what the next item will be. Has a bunch of options, but with the Blasting Wand, maybe not the Zhonya's here in game number 2. It's a pretty common item if you're going up against a lot of people that can dive you, but maybe even a Banshee Veil for this one.
Maybe Merlinomicon as well would be very high value against the team, but I kind of take your point of if you get Merlinomicon and then just get ruptured and die instantly, maybe the Banshee Veil is where you want to go. Both of those are ones you're thinking of. There's the healing mechanics onto both the Cho'Gath and the Gragas.
Especially no cleanse on the jungle, so you got to deal with the Shen, the Varus, everybody that can catch you.
And they got to deal with the fact that Ryze has still stacking time. The Kai'Sa is still short of the 2-item core that truly brings her online with the Rage Blade, and probably going to need something more than that, maybe a stopwatch in this particular game in order to try to live through fights. And meanwhile, Afreeca Freecs get stronger and stronger with every purchase rather than the kind of, not logarithmic scaling, but definitely spikes for Kingzone around certain item timings that they don't have just yet. Kramer has navigated himself to a comfortable 30 CS lead. He has 2 items. And once again, Kingzone don't really have backline threat. Alistar and Camille could fly through, but not a 0-3-0 Camille. So given where the game is at, Kramer will feel eminently safe, and Kingzone waiting on items to really start the 1-3-1 that once again going to be delayed compared to where they want it to be.
Yeah, feels a little bit like game number 1 in that sense. Just going to be farming up and hope that Afreeca can't take objectives, but their whole team is built around it. We'll see what they do here. As we're at 22 minutes into the game, the Infernal Drake is going to be the next one, would be the second Drake for Afreeca. Should be able to feast that one, give an extra stack to the Cho'Gath, and maybe even after this, just go directly over to the Baron and begin just denying vision and playing around that objective.
And while the mistakes haven't been as conspicuous, the laning mistakes by Prey and Gorilla, and you're nodding your head being like, okay, they've got some scaling and the items are coming in, you could also just look at the top and say, actually, that's still down 5,000 gold at 22 minutes. This time they don't have 2 Infernal Drakes to sweeten the kind of cake when it came to the later games. So actually, Afreeca Freecs are in just as good, if maybe not a better position they were in game number 1. That is pretty scary thought. For Kingzone, who made adjustment bans and weren't able to find true adjustment. Do wonder if they lose game 2, do they try and just jump on the red side for game number 3 rather than the blue side? Maybe. For 3 games in a row? Afreeca Freecs in a really good spot. They want to make this game about the Baron. Have to imagine it'll happen soon, as Kingzone cannot lose vision around this blue side jungle under any circumstances.
Well, they took out the second turret in the top side. It's not going to matter in terms of the vision around there, as Rise can just sit in the bush, clear that one out, push it. But already you can tell that Afreeca are making plays, putting down all of the control wards they can around that top side river, trying to deny vision. They'll eventually try to make a play up there. They're
also buying stopwatches on their backs. They bought some extra stopwatches. They have 4 stopwatches, and they have item leads on most of their champions. So a lot of the gold lead here is both on stopwatch and just in general item completions that makes it almost impossible for Kingzone to take anything resembling a true 5v5. It will be basically irresponsible for Kingzone to take a 5v5, so for that to happen, they need to split people away, they need to catch people on warding missions. Otherwise, it just feels like they're set up to lose around the Baron.
I'm glad you point out the stopwatch thing. A lot of teams, when they're ahead, will invest the extra 600 gold for multiple members. Now, imagine your team has 0 Zhonya's, the enemy team has 4.
Yep.
Who's going to win that one fight? Even if they're behind on gold, they're going to win that one. And now they're ahead on gold plus stopwatches. So Afreeca looking for that 5v5, looking for that perfect engage.
Watching this play here.
Okay. This is the seismic shove, and he pushes out Peanut here. The blue buff will go over to Spirit. Peanut doesn't die, still has his Weaver's Wall, but a nice amount of poke given out there by Kuro.
And that's definitely the chivalrous way of explaining what your comp wants to do. Play around enemy blue side jungle and then pull back. They don't actually get a kill from it, but they're basically saying, hey, this is something you should probably think about. So I imagine Kingzone are getting the spoilers. Spirit can't be too quick to walk up. He has slowed down his ability power for now when Spirit Visage is the first item so that he can walk up to the brush a bit more. I'm still optimistic we'll see the Proto Belt at some point in the build. Just thinking about the way to discuss it, because we always talk about, say, a QSS tax when you're against Malzahar and Skarner. Maybe this is a stopwatch surplus on the side of Afreeca Freecs. They're ahead, it's a snowball into the stopwatch, snowball Baron. We already mentioned this is exactly what Afreeca Freecs are looking to do. 0 vision, they only have Gorilla on the Alistair to face check this one. The wall's gonna come in, and all of a sudden, Gorilla... They're still on it.
Yep. Okay, gonna be doing some damage. Peanut in the backside. There it is, that first damage from the Gragas. The cat is gonna take him out. There you go. The jungle immediately is taken out of the fight. Now they can turn back onto the Baron. Prey trying to do some damage over the wall, but they've been zoned out. The Feast comes in, and Afreeca will get a kill and the Baron.
It's a DIY protect the Baron comp. The Gragas doesn't even need to be there. They got the Feast on the Cho'Gath, and Gragas has enough damage. Just assassinate Peanut over the wall. Spirit says, I'm gonna do it myself. He has corralled Peanut pretty significantly in this game, and they get the Baron they set up for.
We were talking about Taliyah item choices. Went for the Morella Nomicon. He didn't do any damage as he used 0 abilities. Didn't have that Banshee Veil for survivability. And, well, he goes down, and that's essentially a free Baron to the side of Afreeca.
And when you have Cho'Gath and tanks around the Baron, you don't have to fully peel away. They have the control ward behind, because of course they do, and Spirit says, hey, you deal with the smite. I'm going to kill Peanut. He goes into the Death Chamber to the Runic Echo Gragas. Again, they can keep tanking the Baron because they have Cho'Gath, they have Gragas, they have Shen. This is an excellent Baron comp from Afreeca. Kingzone should have known that, but once again, early game counts against them. They're going to be spotted on display, but nothing really to punish for the side of Afreeca Freecs.
You tell that Kingzone are getting a little bit desperate. They want to go on the top side and catch Keen as he's pushing with that Baron, but they get spotted. They barely miss the sweeper. On the one ward, spots them all coming on up, and well, Afreeca now running away with this one, and well, I didn't expect myself to be casting this game as Afreeca are looking down the barrel of a 2-0 lead against Kingzone, but here we are.
I brought up this story the last time we had Kingzone versus Afreeca, but before that match happened in the second round robin, I saw Spirit, and his next match was against Peanut and Afreeca and Kingzone DragonX on the day. And I said, you know, what do you make of Peanut? He's struggling. He's like, well, he needs to stop trolling. He can just step up and just win the game. So I think Peanut needs to stop trolling for Kingzone to win. I said, what about Afreeca? You guys are struggling too. He said, yeah, I need to stop trolling as well. I think it's pretty clear who stopped trolling this game.
Well, it's Tucson has his own stopwatch, and he's even going to flash over. Look at Cho'Gath in the backside. Doesn't give a damn about anybody. There's the laser in the face of the cow. And now there's the damage from your Kramer doing it. Gonna get the knockup too on a Peanut. And it's a total rout. Kramer's chasing him down. We'll be able to pick out the 80 carry. And this is about as one-sided a landslide as you can have in another series. At BDD, you're not going to be carrying tonight either. A 4-for-0 for Afreeca.
Afreeca Freecs are styling on Gen G. What do we say? Okay, yeah, it's just Gen G. They're styling on Kingzone. Now, this is 4 games in a row of styling. Maybe they're just straight up one of the best teams in Korea. We didn't see it for the longest time, Valdez, but they're going to win game 2, and they are suddenly with match point, 3 match points against Kingzone to deny Kingzone's dream of making it to Worlds. Kingzone will go down to the Worlds qualifier if they lose today.
Can hardly believe my eyes as this is what we're watching go down. They might not be able to end the game here. Nice knockup from Gorilla, but down he will go. Feasted through the ultimate. The Ray is going to come out, and at least the wall will knock him out of it there. But oh boy, where did the Talia go once again? The burst damage from Kuro, and the 2-0 right now for Afreeca as they take game number 2 away. 15-2 in kills, and way far ahead in that game.
Kingzone just look all at sea, but Afreeca Freecs are all over Kingzone. Spirit is smiling in a big way. He had a fantastic Gragas game. This Predator Gragas is becoming a must-ban. You can't ban Olaf and Gragas if you're Kingzone DragonX. And Afreeca Freecs, the prep team, are finally showing up with the prep that we had alluded to all throughout 2018. Kingzone are getting stuff that they are good at, but together they are wilting at the challenge of Afreeca Freecs. Can they reverse sweep Afreeca? Not a phrase I thought I would say today. If they do not reverse sweep, they go down to the regional qualifiers. If Afreeca Freecs win 3-0 or by any scoreline, KT goes to Worlds today.
Yep. And I wanted to mention that too, because KT, they were the ones that knocked Hanwha Life out of this and brought Afreeca into the playoffs. And now Afreeca are paying them back right now in the lead up against Kingzone. If they defeat them, KT make it through. We'll see what happens in game 3 after a short commercial break.